Howdy partners, we are back from our trip, and in this video we're going to highlight some of our trip out west, but we understand a lot of you want to do this trip yourself and it's daunting to plan a whole trip out west. So in this video we're going to talk about some of the planning that we've done, some safety factors, and last but not least, the expenses of this trip. Check it out. We're going to have a lot more videos to come, so be sure to subscribe and click that bell, because then you will be notified of our next video and you won't miss a thing. Our trip, it actually was a dream, a lifelong dream. We had wanted to drive across the country and see as much as the country as we could. We focused on a lot of national parks, and we're going to talk a little bit about the planning on how we did that.
First we sat down and decided which parks were definitely a must-see.
Then I downloaded an app called Road Trippers, and I roughly plotted our trip across the country and back.
We didn't actually camp in the national parks because that would have required advanced reservations. So we stayed in areas that were very close outside the parks.
We only had one advanced reservation, and that was our first stop in the Badlands.
So we spent our time staying in national forest, dispersed camping, state parks, and sometimes even in commercial campgrounds.
Obviously, our dispersed camping was free, and other than that, our campground fees ranged anywhere from $7 a night at state parks, because we have a senior discount, to $68 at a KOA. Our personal preference is more remote camping where we're more privacy, but we did camp many times at RV parks that were very close to the highway, just for convenience sake.
Plus, we needed to do our laundry.
Oh, and let's not forget, we stayed at Walmart for the very first time.
Oh great, now she's going to want a Walmart sticker.
We camped with the cows, we camped with the coyotes, and we camped alongside some other strange neighbors. Nah, I'm only kidding. We arranged to meet Rick and Linda from GonAgain in Nevada, and they were great people. We interviewed them and even caught an impromptu couple of fans coming by to thank Rick and Linda.
You two have really inspired us to go out and not be afraid to go out and explore, and we appreciate that. Wonderful to meet you.
And be sure to check out their channel. They did a tour of our camper. Look for a link in the comments below for this East meets West cargo camper collaboration videos. Wow, that was a mouthful.
We camped several places that were dispersed camping, and they were definitely dispersed. The first one was in the middle of a cow pasture. We camped in one place where we drove up this road, and it was a fenced off road, but it just had a gate, and it just said, please close the gate. So we figured that meant you could go through. And we drove up, and it was a very, very rough road, large rocks and deep ruts, and really bounced the vehicle and the trailer around a lot. But once we got up there, we were actually able to find a spot that wasn't too badly out of level, and we camped there for the night.
Of course, the next day is when we had our blowout.
That was probably a coincidence. One of the things that we were struggling with, a lot of the dispersed sites that we got into, it was practically dark when we finally found the place and got into the campsite. We'd have been a lot better off, one, doing a little bit more research to find out just how much available dispersed camping there was in a particular area. And the other thing is to get into those campsites early, because the one road that we went on had 8 different campsites, but they were all totally taken. Thought that perhaps there was more if we kept going on this road. Well, this dirt road ended up going for another 30 miles, and we kept going on hoping that we'd find something, which we didn't. And it was getting dark, it was raining. We're on top of a mountain in the forest, and we're out there till like 11 o'clock at night. We ended up a number of miles once we got back on the paved road till we saw some lights up ahead. And it was a small community. It's a business there. It looked like a feed store. Had a rather large parking lot, so we just pulled into the parking lot and slept until daylight. One dispersed site that we had located on the Google Maps We went to it and found out that in actuality it wasn't a dispersed site, it was a group campsite, and it was closed. The gate was shut and locked. Ended up driving a ways and finding another road that led to some dispersed camping. And we were way up on top of a mountain at over 10,000 feet of elevation, and it was getting dark as we pulled into the campsite. Just as we pulled in, it started to snow, and it snowed through the night, and we had a couple inches of snow, and we weren't sure whether we were going to be able to drive out or not.
This is what happens when you camp at 10,000 feet in September.
You get on some of these roads where there's supposed to be dispersed camping, and if it isn't available, you got no other place to even get turned around. And so you're stuck continuing on that road until you either find a place to turn around or you come back to civilization, get yourself back on a paved road.
That's why we spent 2 hours in the forest.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some websites like Dirt, DYRT, Dirt, that they advertise that they have a lot of listings of dispersed camping. So we didn't really make the resources available to us, and we probably should have done that, and we'd have had a much more satisfying result and a safer result.
Okay, speaking of a safer result, let's talk about some safety measures that we took. You may notice that Rick is carrying a handgun. Rick, I want to address the elephant in the room who are carrying a handgun. And we live in New Jersey, which is one of the strictest gun laws in the country. So can you tell people, did you just strap it on your side and start carrying it? How do you do this legally?
Because I was concerned twofold, one for our safety and also for being in violation of a federal law where you're guilty of, if you transport a firearm through a school zone. In order to avoid that, if you have a carry permit, then you're legal. So I took a course in New Jersey to get a non-resident carry permit for the state of Utah. That carry permit is recognized in 31 other states. Since I'm allowed to carry, I started carrying my little concealed carry pistol, and it's so light and comfortable that I forget that I even have it on. Yellowstone is grizzly country, so we did make sure that we bought bear spray, just to be sure. We didn't get to see any grizzlies in the wild, but we did get to see them in a Wolf and Grizzly Discovery Center in West Yellowstone. I highly recommend going there. That's in West Yellowstone. I'll probably put a link to that in the comments below. They even had this cute little guy swimming in his tank. Despite trying to stay on top of maintaining the air pressure in the tires, both in the van and the trailer, we did run into an issue. My trailer got a boo-boo.
And it ripped the whole fender off. Tell me a little bit about what happened with the blowout.
Yeah, well, we were just going down a hill, minding our own business at like 65 miles an hour, and then bang. And the next thing we know, I see the fender left the trailer, and we had pieces of tire passing us 40 feet in the air.
I do remember that. You handled it very well, though.
That's right. We didn't even have to shovel off my seat. Anyway, it was an interesting afternoon. This tire had to be retired, like me. And we put on the spare, and then we kind of checked Google Maps to see where the nearest place that we could buy a replacement spare was. We ended up going to a tractor supply store. So we had no fender on the trailer, so we checked and bought another fender once we found one available. It took 2 cities and had a call about 10 different places, and somebody had one that was the right size. Unfortunately, it didn't match the other fender. So we now have one diamond plate black one and one smooth mill finished aluminum one. I admit, I did have some reservations about taking a 23-year-old van across the country. Rick's van was a former New York City police van that was in 9/11. He had a new engine put in it last year. I call her Vanna because she's white. But let me tell you, Vanna was a beast. She did not disappoint. I had talked about how Vanna was amazing on this trip, but
There were a couple times going over those big mountain passes where she was sluggish, and Gary told you something to do.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of this. I was in contact with a friend of mine via phone calls and texts, just talking about a trip and updating him on our progress.
He's a mechanic, right?
He's a mechanic, and he told me that when you're out and you're changing elevation a lot, if you feel that the vehicle is starting to act a little sluggish, it doesn't seem as peppy as what it normally does, should pull over to the side of the road, shut the engine off for at least 20 seconds or so, and then restart it. And what that does is it forces your mass airflow sensor to recalibrate itself for the new elevation, and it'll make adjustments accordingly. And he was right, it did make a tremendous difference. There were times when I just thought that I got bad gas or wasn't running on all cylinders. It was
You're not running on all cylinders, honey.
I thought it was getting pretty sluggish going up some of those hills. So I'd pull over and let it sit for a minute and then start back up, and we'd take off, and it would definitely show an improvement.
Stinky seemed to enjoy the trip and was very well behaved, for the most part. He did get into a little bit of mischief.
Help! Help! Hey, little help here.
Did see all kinds of wildlife out there.
We actually did have a real Wild West adventure. At least Rick did.
I did almost get wiped out by a horse that was a runaway.
So apparently they must take people for rides on this, and I think the rider, I guess, tied the horse up and went to lunch or something, and the horse decided it didn't want to wait. It was kind of scary. So Rick was the hero and saved the horse. But he almost got squished in the process. Well, I decided to have my own horse adventure. We saw so much beautiful scenery. We saw a lot of beautiful sunrises and beautiful sunsets. We got to see an eclipse in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We got to do a little bit of hiking and a little bit of exploring.
Although we did an entirely different type of exploring in Nashville.
Rick found I think it's a deer skull. We had fun in Oklahoma in the Route 66 Museum, and we got lots of stickers. I get so excited about our stickers. Let's talk about the expenses. This is not the time to go cross country with gas prices, but we were supposed to do it last year and didn't because of gas prices, so we decided to do it anyway. How much did we spend in gas?
Been almost 2,400. I had figured that we were going to be around 26.
Well, how many miles did we go?
We went somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 miles. Normally, like in the east, I get about 11 miles to a gallon. When we were going out in the Rockies, there were times when I was probably only getting a little over 9.
And then there were tolls. Do you know how much were in tolls?
Several $100s in tolls.
Since we were on a budget, we rarely ate out and we prepared most of our food.
And I even got my occasional roadside PB&J fix.
By the way, there aren't that many places to eat in the park, so you're better off packing a box lunch. We bought limited souvenirs. As you can see, I have my cash only shirt, and he's got his Willie shirt on. So total cost was about $6, so that's better than I thought. Okay.
6 plus whatever you contributed.
I think I did like 12.
All right, so that would have been 72.
Okay. So, and again, we should have exact numbers, but we don't for whatever
It's
reason.
only money.
Yeah.
You just go out and get some more.
Looking back, what would we do differently? First of all, I wouldn't have taken the bikes. We stored the bikes in the camper, so every time we camped, we had to unload the bikes and the bike rack, and it was just a pain. And considering we didn't get exercise.
That was our exercise with those bikes.
Was moving the bikes in and out.
Moving them in and out each day.
You're right. No, I did ride 2 laps around a campground, I think in Nashville. I don't remember what campground.
And I rode down to the office at one of the state parks we stayed in because we checked in late at night and I had to go register in the morning.
Yeah. The other thing is we took the canopy that we never used. I wouldn't take that.
Well, when I planned this trip, I had hoped that we would be someplace down in the desert and actually be able to boondock in one spot for like a week. That was my reason for bringing the canopy. I thought if we were going to be settled in one area for a week, we'd put the canopy up. Unfortunately, that never happened. The most we ever stayed in any place was we stayed 3 nights at one campground. Mm-hmm. Every place else was just 1 night or at the most 2.
And the deserts are much windier than I thought they would be. So you got to be careful with the canopies. Personally, I pack too many clothes, but I always do. And we packed too much food. I mean, I had cases of canned goods. I would say don't forget the winter coat, the gloves, the hat, something warm because you could hit snow in cold weather.
Yeah, we had to go out to a Walmart and buy winter coats when we first got up to like South Dakota because it was way colder at night already up there than what we had expected.
What about you? What would you do differently?
We built this platform for a bed in the van. It did work out okay in terms of storage because it gave us 2 levels of storage, but we really didn't use the bed that much. You can sleep in the trailer. We didn't really have to have the van set up to sleep in. I
wasn't that comfortable in sleeping in the van. Number one, the mattress was not comfortable. I don't like the height restrictions, the airflow, or it just felt constricted. I'm not crazy about van camping like that. I did not like that. The camper was much bigger in our 6x12 camper.
The other thing is that we looked at all these destinations for the national parks. Because of the distance that we were trying to cover and the allotted amount of time, and the fact that we didn't spend too much time in one area, we didn't really explore just how much beautiful scenery there is in either just boondocking or parks surrounding a national park without even having to go into it.
It wasn't like we had all this free time. We were really pushed from one place to the next, so maybe that would.
But I would definitely prefer to allocate more time at each of our stops, 4 days, 5 days in one area before you move on.
You know, when we were first going, I know we talked about going out 5 to 7 weeks. I guess we were 7 weeks or 51 days.
Yeah, 7 weeks and 2 days.
So we were actually a little over 7 weeks. It wasn't enough time. It really was not enough time. Overall, the experience was amazing. I loved the trip. I would definitely do it again. If you're from the East Coast and have not been out west, I highly recommend doing it. Maybe not with a road trip like we did, but even if you fly out somewhere and then just go to Utah and check out the parks and stuff. Go to Yellowstone or whatever. I definitely enjoyed it. I remember saying I felt like I was born on the wrong coast.
Hey guys, listen up. My peeps got a big announcement.
So guys, we're going to go live on November 15th at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I think we could have a few prizes even from our merch store.
Not too long ago, Jimmy Buffett passed away. And I had a conversation with my oldest daughter. She wanted to go see him perform live. She always assumed that she would have time. Unfortunately, Jimmy didn't. So when it comes to taking a trip like this, don't keep putting it off. You never know how many days you have on this earth. Go out of this life with memories instead of wishing you had.
Thank you for watching, guys, and be sure to join us live on the 15th. Take care.